Get the recording going. All right, welcome everybody. I know this is a pretty popular topic for everybody. I see people flooding in. So as we're getting started, let me see. I'm just enabling the chat here so that everybody can type stuff if they want to. I would be super interested just to hear from everybody in the chat, like, what's your brand and what kind of demo experience do you have? Like, have you been running a bunch already? How many? Where are they? And maybe like, what's the most you've ever sold at a demo? And I'll tell you mine also once I see some of those. And just the one thing is when you send a message, just make sure to click the blue button and select everyone. If you don't do that, it only sends it to me and David and Bridget, and we love to see it, but then not everybody else gets to. So send us some fun stuff in the chat. So today's topic is all about in-store demos. David and Bridget from Grassroots Marketing, they are our partner for in-store demos. So if you ever want to chat with them about getting a program running, they're awesome. They have no minimums. That's the most important thing, because if you talk to most demo companies, they're like, great, okay, but if you want to demo in any single store, you have to demo there 100 times during the year for it to make sense for us. So it's really cool to have a flexible partner that does all the good stuff, and they're the preferred demo partner for a couple places, including Erewhon. So what I'm especially excited about is today they have agreed to actually just teach all of you guys how to do it yourself, right? Because I know when you're getting started, you might not be ready to get a pro demo company to come in and just, start crushing it at a bunch of accounts. You might want to figure out, hey, could I be scrappy and try to do this on my own? So they're going to give you the good stuff. I asked them to give a little bit of an intro about who they are, and then we're going to get into, how do you actually plan demos? How do you schedule them with stores? I think that's like the big unknown for a lot of accounts. And then, what should you be looking at? Because I think for me, the main point about demos is wherever you start, then you got to get better, right? So, okay, we tried it. Now, what are the learnings? Like, how does this time slot work? How does this particular location work? So really good to have kind of the locations for that. And I'm enjoying seeing some of the comments come in, people selling 2 cases, scheduling a couple demos of farmers market. So really cool to see. And I will just give a fun fact, which was in LA, when I was doing demos for my beverage company, it would be great when I was doing like Erewhon if I could go through like 30 to 40 cans. I was very proud of that. And then I went to Central Market in Texas and I sold 200 in 2 or 3 hours. I was like, oh my God, like this is where it's at. So it can vary a lot across stores, but there's my fun fact. Okay, cool. David, Bridget, I'm going to pass to you guys to introduce yourselves, and please keep the questions coming. The chat is cool for chit chat. And then if you want to ask a question, then it can come in through the Q&A, and I will help you guys surface some of the questions so you can focus on the presentation.
Got it. Sounds good.
Thank you so much for that awesome introduction, though, Daniel. We're so excited to be here today and get to meet some more brands and just be able to talk about demos, because I think demos are really special. They're really unique. As some of you guys know already in the comments, if you've done demos yourself already, you know the craziness that is a demo. And if you haven't done one yet, you'll experience it once you do it yourself. It's real experience. It's fantastic for founders and for anyone at the company to get to actually meet customers firsthand and learn about the feedback, how the stores run, and like Daniel pointed out, how the stores vary, right? Because you might have success at one store and then see how successful you could be at another store. So it's all really exciting. But to tell you a little bit more about ourselves, I'm Bridget Aragon. Pretty much my background, I actually studied film production and did a little bit more media, but I used to do demos myself for work. That's what I was doing when I was in college. I worked with some natural food companies when they were first starting out. College seems so long ago now, but at the time, natural food wasn't what it is now. CPG wasn't the same industry that we're currently all in. I was really seeing that for the first time and doing demos in places like Erewhon when they just had 2 stores, places like Whole Foods, and talking to customers who really cared about what they were putting in their body. So that's more of my background, and I got to start this company with David.
Yeah, awesome.
And tell me about yourself, Dave.
So we've been working also together. Me and Bridget have been together for 9 years doing this. And I've worked in the industry pretty much my whole life because my mom worked in the industry also. So I've been doing shelf resets since I was little. I hated going to grocery stores because it always would turn into an errand where My mom had to check in with someone and merchandise, and we'd be doing shelf resets. So it was something I've been doing since I was really small. I've actually worked in the stores. I've worked in the stores. I've worked as a territory sales rep. I've worked with brokers. I've worked in all aspects of the industry, and now doing demos. So now really focusing on getting, more cans into hands, more products into people's shopping carts. That's really what we're all about. And this all started with just that simple mission of getting more people to try better for you foods a long time ago. And here we are. But the natural food industry has grown a lot in that time, to Bridget's point. And sampling I think is more important than ever, because you're just seeing that the stores are very saturated with products, a lot of great products too. So as a customer, it's never been harder to choose.
That's a good point.
And that's where we come in.
Exactly.
But I'll just mention, I saw a comment. Some people I think can't quite see Bridget because she's a little bit on the edge of the panel. I don't know if you guys want to center a little bit. And if you want, you could move the camera so it points down a little bit just to center you in the frame. There we go. Also, fun fact, if you absolutely need somebody to start a dance party, Bridget is the person to call. We had an epic dance off at Expo West and she won.
We started a party though. That was so exciting. I felt like that was really fun, and that is true.
You can dance here at the end. All right.
We'll do it. But I guess, how should we start off? Daniel, are we sharing?
Yeah, do you want to, can you share your screen and just jump in? Thanks.
Let's go open this up.
And do you dance during demos, Bridget, is what I want to know. I definitely do. I'll bring a little boombox. Just like, try some.
David will always remember, because the Whole Foods used to do like kind of special events at their stores, and they had one for Halloween one time. So I showed up in a dinosaur costume, doing a demo for a cold pressed juice company, ended up winning the dance off, got a Whole Foods gift card, spent all the gift card on lunch pretty much, because that's how expensive it was. But yeah, no, I'm very chatty. I love doing demos. I think it's fun. Well, I guess we'll get into it, but
yeah,
you'll see how
we'll go over it over here.
Yeah.
We'll give you guys the whole 101. So for all the brands, thank you for your attendance. But here it is. So we're going to be going over demo planning from start to finish. So this can be something that can seem very simple, but can get complicated as you scale it. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it in the beginning that's going to pay off later on. And if you don't do it in the beginning, similarly, you will pay for that later on, because there will be a whole bunch of things that'll be happening, and you'll be in the thick of it. And you won't be able to manage these things at that point. So this is to help you prep, whether you're going to do 1 or 100. A lot of these things are some great tips that anyone could use. And doesn't matter if you're going to use us or an agency or in-house or anything. This is all just information for you to take into consideration one way or another. So let's jump in. All right, so here's what we're going to be going over today. So the content today is kind of, who are we? I know we gave a little bit of background, but just to give you an idea of where we're coming from, the types of field marketing and the types of demos that exist. There's a lot of kinds of field staffing out there, a lot of kind of events out there, and a lot of communities that cater to different types of events. It's a really wide world of event staffing, experiential staffing, and it's something that grows all the time as people become, more connected to these giant experiences like trade shows, concerts, Coachella, influencers. It's a big world. We're going to go over some of those things. How do you plan the campaigns? What do you need before you get started? Hiring help. This is a huge pain point for anybody in any industry, but especially when it comes to demos. Planning events, the scheduling process. This is something, again, that seems simple, but can get complicated depending on which retailer you're going to, what rules they have, if they have a portal, they don't have a portal, independents, chains. We're going to dive into that. Following up and recapping. So you do a whole bunch of work to get these demos off the ground. But it's just as much work, just like getting into a retailer. Once you're on the shelf, then the real work starts. Then that's what we're looking at here. It's a similar situation where you do all this work, but then how do you follow up on it? How do you capitalize on it? We're going to go into that, tying into the broader promotional strategies that you have. This is something really important that a lot of the time might get overlooked because there's so much work that already just goes into planning these types of events, but something that needs to be considered. And then the final thing is analyzing the results. How to analyze the results, what to take into account, and how to approach that once you're done with all of these events. That's it. So let's go into it. So who are we? Well, I'm David Heiser. This is Bridget Aragon, as we went over. You know, I've worked in the industry my whole life. She's worked in the industry for pretty much her whole life at this point. Both of us have backgrounds in working all sorts of these shows. We've worked hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of these events by now, from trade shows to doing demos on a beach, passing out products, concerts, everything. And of course, in-store samplings. Yeah, so Bridge, I don't know if you want to give any background there, but I mean.
No, just again, I think what we started doing this together because we were kind of there at the start of this whole counterculture with what was happening with natural food. So we really saw that in-store sampling was making a difference when you were actually educating customers on what the product was and being able to have them try it and experience it in front of you.
Got it. So let's go into it. So the types of demos that there are. So this is something that is important. So there's a lot of different channels. So Bridge, I don't know if you maybe want to go over these.
So there's a few different options that you have. Obviously, there's in-store sampling, which is what we're usually going to be seeing in the store, where there's a single person there handling the event, sampling out to customers. Event staffing, like David kind of touched on a little bit earlier, larger events. That means working something like an Expo West, working LA Marathon, working Vegan Dale. So that could be trade shows, marathons, or special events. More of guerrilla marketing style as well. So that's what we're talking about. If you have an idea of, hey, we have an ice cream product. We want to be at Venice Beach on a Saturday on a sunny day, giving out free units of our product, letting people actually just try it and let them know, hey, we're down the street, the store carries us, or whatever you want to be kind of giving out. Split demos, which is something that we really try and promote on our end, but a lot of brands aren't really familiar with, is finding other companies that either align with what you're already giving out, or just something that can kind of mesh and doing a split demo. So you're getting to have two products at the table at the same time. And then also educational demos. This is really important for some items that may be a little difficult to sample at certain locations. So we can be giving out any type of marketing materials, such as coupons, giving out free units, getting customers and staff familiar with the product that is going to be carried at that store or is carried, but maybe you can't sample it because it's a frozen item or whatever it might be.
Yeah, there's one thing to keep in mind here is that, like, to Bridget's point, in terms of like a lot of brands might think like, oh, I want to go pass out ice cream on the beach. Let's just do that. There is a ton of work that goes into that, like a lot. Like you need a truck, you need a cooler, you need people, you need health permits, or at least like a food handler permit at the least. And a lot of work goes into that behind the scenes. And you won't see that if you're a customer. You're just going to see people passing out cans, passing out ice cream, passing out items. But just something to keep in mind. And with all of these, there is a similar level of preparation that's going to go in on the back end that you won't see if you're just a shopper, but that you will absolutely have to do if you're the brand. And we're going to go into more of these details, but it's just going to equal either having a super polished looking event or having something that feels last minute, feels rushed, and stresses you out. There's an image here of one of those split demos as well. So that's like something we're piloting now, where we're having brands that are non-competing together on the table so that the cost is less for both parties and that you have different crossover customers that can stop by. Just another example of ways you can get creative with these events.
You bring up a good point too, and well, I know we're going to touch on that in a little bit too, but just the preparation of everything, because even when you're doing guerrilla marketing and you're thinking you're giving out ice cream at a beach and having fun, maybe you forget you want to take pictures of people if you want to get some stuff for social media, if you want to post stuff on LinkedIn, if you want to, have something visual to show, hey, I was actually here. So it's a lot of preparation and things that you want to keep in mind.
Awesome. All right, so let's go to the next one. So planning your demos. So look, there's a lot of text here. A lot of this is also for your benefit after the webinar so that you can read through this and you don't need to just remember all of it. So this is going to be like a guidepost, like a reference. The idea of this stuff is that you could take this and this will give you exactly the instructions kind of you need to, if you have no experience, or even if you have experience, to maybe give you some tips from us, some advice from us on how to like structure the process, because it's a pretty long process, especially if you're DIYing it. So it can become very complicated very quickly with demos. It can be very simple in the beginning. Let's say you're doing, if you're a young brand and you're just a startup, you're a fresh startup, you're trying to go out in the marketplace, validate your idea, or you want to support your early initial accounts or indies in your area. This can be simple in the beginning. You can do it yourself. You don't need necessarily an agency. You don't even maybe need a hire to do this. You don't need to hire anybody to do it. You can handle it in the beginning. Let's say that's 1 to 10 in a month. But once you start going beyond that, that's when you're going to need help. So here is some of the initial steps that we have. Whether you're going to do it yourself or you're going to have someone do it, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need a food handler license for your state. So you're going to need to check on that. Wherever your locality is, whatever state you're in, you're going to need to check what your food handler program is there. This is something super simple. It's not intimidating. It's literally as simple as, if anybody here has ever worked in a restaurant, worked at a grocery store, many times they'll have you get these licenses. They're simple, they're cheap, it's fast to get. Basic stuff, things like cross-contamination and temperature sensitivity of items, like knowledge of those things will be covered on that test. Make sure to get one of these because you will need one in case like a health inspector stops by or something like that. And it's honestly just good to know these things anyways.
But you need one for your state and sometimes for the county. And for any of you out there listening who are going to plan to do any events yourself at a central market, Texas is a strict one. So they, Central Market will check your food handler certificate upon arrival. I've known brands who have flown out there to go to do demos themselves. And then, oh, guess what? I have a food handler's, but it's for another state, or I didn't think I needed one. So check those requirements before you're going into a store, and just know you do need.
And for any of your reps and for anybody you hire, they have to have it too. Anybody needs this.
So just a question on that. Yeah, I had that experience with Central Market.
Oh, that's Central Market, yeah.
Yeah, I went and did the, meet the founder demos there, which was super cool.
Yeah.
I think 1 or 2 of the stores asked for it and we didn't have it. So we ended up, I don't know, moving to some other stores. We did it with a demo person in some of them, and then sometimes they didn't show up. It wasn't you guys, obviously. So then that was a little tricky. At Air One doesn't really ask for that. I mean, probably you are supposed to have it, but they've never asked us.
They've never, and that's the tricky thing. It's like, for the most part, is someone every time you're going to a store checking? For the most part, no. But at Air One, I personally had like, what is it, David? The food, not the inspectors.
The health
inspectors.
When they're doing routine
walks.
They've
come in and they've asked, like,
they've kicked people out for not having it.
You have open lids and you need a cover.
Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. I mean, it's unpredictable, but in general, you're just going to want to have it to avoid complications or a situation like what Daniel encountered in Central Market. It's just you're kind of like beholden to the stores.
You never know,
they might ask, they might not, but it's just something you want to have. And that tying into that, it's also making sure you clear your demos, whatever you're doing, clear your demo with the retailer. A lot of the times, I mean, the number one complaint, I'll tell everybody, the number one complaint from the stores is when brands just show up. They hate it. Like it's sometimes, sometimes you can get away with it and you can just show up and do a demo, but the stores hate it because they just like, if you think from their perspective, they are like ordering like carefully, like for these amounts, for these products. And then all of a sudden someone shows up and I mean, it's good for the brand to sell, but then the store is left with a hole on their set. Maybe they had inventory coming up. Maybe they have things going on, they're not going to be happy about it. And you want to make sure that your indies, your chains, you don't want to be upsetting anybody by going and doing a demo. And I'm telling you this because this is what we hear from the stores. The stores, not specific about specific brands, just in general. They just don't want brands to just walk in with a table and be like, hey, I'm going to sample today, without telling anybody. And it happens more than you'd think.
Yeah.
I can't imagine ever doing.
I know, but it happens.
I'd be horrified.
It happens all the time. And for the most part, the stores will try and be nice about it. But like, we had a retailer this weekend that they had a glitch on their system where they allowed events to be scheduled on a day that I guess they had a promo going on and they didn't want any events. So multiple brands showed up trying to do events that they had scheduled and they were like, oh, it was a blackout date. It was like a whole thing. So you just never know. Yeah.
It's just something to be aware of for all the brands out there. I know it comes from a good place. People want to hustle, want to get out there and sell, but just like keep in mind that the retailers might not view it as charitably. Sometimes, just give someone a call, if there's a portal, use the portal, but that's pretty much it. It's not a big deal, but you just want someone to know you're coming. And also create a store list. This is something important. You want to make sure that you pick your best stores. I put here that and I'll tell any brand this gladly. It's pick your top 20%, support them. If you're launching, that's the exception. If let's say you just got into Air One, Central Market, any of these stores, a region of Whole Foods, Then your first round at those stores, go wide, go wide. If you're doing them yourself, even go wide, do more stores, spread out. You don't know which ones are going to be your top sellers yet. You don't know who's going to be your AAA stores, who's going to be, you know, your D-listers. You don't know any of that. So go into those stores and cast a wide net. After that, I always recommend to brands just focus on your top 20. Follow that 80-20 rule. Demos are a big investment. Even if you do them yourself, it's a lot of time that it takes, even if you're doing them yourself. So focus on your top stores. Don't try to use demos to necessarily rescue underperformers, unless you think that it's for a specific reason, like you think your customer's there and it's getting lost. Maybe you're a frozen item, maybe it's specific to your brand. Then, you know, go for it. But in general, you want to focus on your winners more than you want to focus on your dogs.
I can add on to that. So for Erewhon, I think, yeah, it took us 1 round or 2 rounds of demoing it all, 10 or 11, however many, to realize some were just terrible because of like where they make you set up, like way outside the store, or because of your placement there. And like, yeah, you're not going to get the worst one to be the best performer, and it's expensive. So yeah, we shifted. We're like, all right, we'll take the top 4 and we'll demo there twice a month and we'll skip the bottom ones. I think like I initially worried that the buyer would be like looking at store by store performance. I don't think they really have time to do that. I think they're just looking at your general average. So for sure, you're going to get a better ROI on those top stores. But yeah, like maybe you're trying to get a little bit better placement at one store. You could worry about that. But we did the same thing for Central Market also, because we saw huge differences between the stores. Like some, we would have a demo person go in and sell 10, and others they'd go in and sell 50. And so like, yeah, gotta be smart where you put your money.
Exactly.
Very true.
Exactly.
Good point. Yeah.
You know, so there's edge cases, but in general, 80-20 rule will be your friend there. And you know, the last thing, this is, again, this seems obvious, but it's something that once you're getting started can get lost in the shuffle. Make sure to tie into your existing promotional calendar, especially true for brands that are in multiple retailers, multiple regions. When you're looking to schedule across, like, let's say we have brands that are doing like demos in like 7 different retailers. You know, it can get complicated, but when you have promotions across those retailers that are all on different calendars, and you have bigger ones, bigger promos and some, smaller and other, you have an end cap here, you don't over there. Just make sure that when you're in the planning phase, before you're getting too close, you know, to start with this, with the start date of the campaign, make sure that you try and tie in any existing promos that you have into your demos. Demos are like they're another spoke in the wheel. And you want to make sure that all of these things are running in synchronized in tandem so that you can, you know, make the most of it. If you're on a sale, like what Daniel was saying, he sold like 200 at that store, right? The difference between a demo where you would sell 200 and 100, even if it was the same day, same person, could be that promo or that end cap that you have going. I mean, just think of someone sitting next to your end cap, setting up a table and just selling while you're on sale, versus if it was just an average day. You know, you're gonna see a humongous lift if you demo on promo days or days where you have initiatives going already, compared to demoing when you don't have those things. And again, there's reasons to demo even if you don't have those things, but it's just in general better to do that if you can tie it into your existing promotional calendar.
That's no joke. Like if I'm on promo and I'm just telling people, oh, it's 2 for $5, 100% of people take 2, which doubles your output.
Exactly. You know, days when you have those promos, it's a humongous difference. It's night and day. So just an FYI to all the brands, especially for when you do it yourself, don't go over there and waste your time. If you have a promo coming up next month, don't do it the month before. Get out there and demo when you're on sale. So this will all be detailed on here as well. So for anyone just joining, don't feel like you need to remember all of this. So here we go. So look, here's some essentials, right? So we've talked about the planning, but what about, you know, planning for what you're going to put on the table? You know, let's assume you have nothing. So I know most brands have something, but let's assume that you have nothing. You're a fresh startup. You're doing your first events. Maybe you're doing farmers markets. You have nothing right now. So we're going to go over a few of the things that I think you should have, and just a couple of example images here of different types of marketing material that brands have and have used. So table runners, coupons, sales sheets, you know, one pagers, postcards, stickers. There's a lot of options. There are an overwhelming number of options. don't feel like you need to do everything, because then it'll just be busy and you'll be spending a bunch on like beanies and all these things. There's too many things to name. So my essentials that I always tell brands that they should have if they can is a table runner, a one pager, like to put in a plexiglass holder, and maybe a postcard, especially if you're a brand that requires like any sort of preparation. And then, you know, if you want to do something more like stickers, that's fine too.
And a table runner is that thing hanging down like the Mary's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you see in Mary
probiotics
there,
thing, right?
Yeah.
it drapes over the table. It's easy to fold up and put away, and it makes the table look so much better.
We get so much of the time when we're onboarding with our clients, they're asking, you know, what do you need from us? And like David's saying, that's at least the minimum that we try and say. Of course, everyone is in different situations. So sometimes maybe just the sales sheet is enough, but it's just those small things that help your table pop and just brings customers to the table when they can see from a distance that there's a big image of an ice cream cone on the table runner, or they just that they can get ideas of like, okay, you know, what is it that's when customers approach you and are just like, what are you sampling? What do you have over here? They're a little bit more curious. So it does help bring people and little small stuff too. I mean, these like stickers or pens, even a lot of the time after expos or marathons, our brands will reach out and be like, hey, you know, we have a bunch of this stuff. Could we use it for the demos? So that's also a creative way of kind of getting that additional swag or anything that you have. Maybe you're just like, we have too much. We want to give it out to people that you can use for these events too.
Yeah. Another thing is QR codes. So we live in a digital age. No one is going to be really taking a lot of, like, if you put a lot of paper stuff together, it's helpful because customers will look at it, but they won't necessarily take it home. They might just glance at it there. They might even take a photo, but there is a member of the startup CPG community here that's, I believe, on this webinar now. They work with a company called GrowFlow, and this is one of those companies that has QR codes that enable you to, you know, track how people are using it. They have links that you can go to on it. I would definitely recommend that whatever you do, you incorporate those things, those elements, something like a solution like GrowFlow, like a QR code solution, onto your marketing material, at least on one of them, maybe on the bottom of a sales sheet or of your postcard, you know, something that allows people to digitally engage with you in a way that isn't just, you know, that's not going to upset the store because you're not like sending people to buy you online or something. It's just a way that allows them to engage with you on a deeper level, maybe check out your website, something like that. And allows you to track, you know, how many people are doing that. Especially relevant in the day of, you know, of things like go to aisle. You know, it's important that we have more of these digitally enabled things, since we're there in person already doing that heavy lifting of just getting people to convert in other ways as well. So something that's important to mention there. You know, the last step, this is maybe should be the first one. Branded merch, you know, like Daniel's CPG hat right now. See how you notice it right away? That's what you, that's, we all want one, right? You want something like that. Just imagine, instead of CPG, it says your brand. You're going to see that as a customer. You're going to see that and you're going to want to try it. It's going to make the person look less like a guy standing behind a table and more like a founder, a member of the team, someone there for a purpose, not just a person standing around in a grocery store passing things out, but like a real brand, you know. It's these small differences are going to elevate you. Like, you know, you'll see the impact whenever you go to a store. Take a look. If you see a demo happening, take a look at a demo that's just a basic black table with just items on the top. You see this all the time, and just a couple cups and some cans. And then look at a demo like the one that we have in this photo here for Mary Ruth's. I mean, it looks like a tiny store. It looks like something that if you're a customer, you're going to be like, what's going on over here? You're going to want to stop by. All that color, all of that interplay, it comes in and it draws people to you like a moth to flame.
And their ambassadors have like the branded t-shirts and stuff too. So
you don't see it in the image, but they have hats, they have shirts, they've done hoodies. I'd say the minimum I'd recommend for a brand is at least a shirt. A shirt with, you know, some color with your logo. And if you want to do two things, maybe a hat also. It's just helpful. So those are the essentials, I would say. Those are the essentials. And coupons, by the way, as a small additional point, if you're going to do coupons, make sure that you can meet those minimums, because that's not something you're going to do if you're just like at one store. just as an FYI, in case there are brands here that are still more in that growth phase, that's something that makes more sense as you're scaling up. Maybe less sense when you're in 1 to 100 doors, maybe more when you're in, 100 to 1,000 and trying to incentivize purchases there, because they are expensive.
Maybe I'll just add something that I learned to do, because we did not want to get a coupon clearinghouse at the beginning, because you pay monthly fees and all that stuff. We had looked at just like doing it ourselves, but that would be kind of a mess too. What we started doing when we were running our own demos with our team was just bringing extra stock with us. And you can do this somewhere like Erewhon, where I just had a case of product with me and I would say, oh, if you buy 2, I'll give you 1 from my stock. And then you just have to black out the QR code, the UPC on the item, and tell the but you have to tell the cashiers like, hey, we're giving out some stuff, whatever, just so you know, just definitely give them the heads up about it. But that can be kind of a clever way to get around the QR codes. I've seen some people do it very creatively. Like some people with beverages, they'll bring, those like plastic tops that make a 6-pack or a 4-pack or whatever, and they'll just make up that they're the promotion. Like, there's a buy 4, get 2. Like, go get the 4, and then you stick your 2 on there and black out the codes or whatever. And it can be a good way to just start moving more volume when you're there in the store. Because someone was asking here in the chat, like, oh, but if I'm on promo, maybe I don't want to like do it then, because then I'll sell more. Like, the main cost here is the person doing the demo. It's very, like, especially, for all the brands here, I'm guessing like none of you have the velocity where like your profit is going to mean more to you than the actual cost of the person doing the demo. Like, you're not going to make money on this demo. Like, you could sell a lot, but like, with your margins and the person doing it, like, this is a marketing and sales investment. So whatever, my opinion is, whatever you can do to juice what the trial that you're going to get during the promo and like get people buying more of the product is a good way to maximize the investment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. DIY your own promos over there when you're there. Don't worry about the coupon at all, especially if you're small. Just get a Sharpie, mark it off, or get a sample sticker, whatever you want. Just cover that UPC and give people that product, make up your own promo. Don't worry about coupons though. It can get a little complicated with that. So let's go to the next one. So here's one that's important. So this is regarding food safety. So this is something that, again, is a smaller detail, but very important. So we have signs. This is what we use at all of our demos. We have those signs that was taken right here on our counter, and it's pretty much just one sign saying "Be right back." You need this to sort of cover yourself in case you step away from the table for like a minute and someone comes by, or a store staff, especially at Erewhon. God forbid you step away from your table over there and they see that, and it's somebody who is having a bad day. They're going to take a picture of that and they're going to send it to someone. You want to make sure you're covered. You want to make sure that you're covered and that you have that there. Because Central Market's the same way. It's not just Erewhon or something. Anywhere where the retailers are paying attention and they want to make sure that people are doing their jobs, maybe especially if they've had issues with other reps in the past, you're going to be caught up in that too. And all of a sudden, these tiny issues at these demos have a way of they're very exposed. So they have a way of blowing up, and, picture gets sent here, and all of a sudden you're having to apologize to a store manager. You don't want to deal with that. So have a food allergy warning sign, have a be right back sign. That way you can free yourself up, whether you're a founder or whether you have someone doing it. That way you can free yourself up to step away and have the allergy sign there so that you can protect yourself, and also let customers know, please read the ingredients. Even if you have an item that doesn't have any top allergens in it, it's probably worth it to just have one of these on the table anyways, just to remind people to please read the ingredients, because customers do not do that. Even people with deathly allergic allergies to nuts or seeds, we all have experiences with this. Customers tend to ignore that, get excited, try something, and then say, oh, did this have this in it? You want to avoid a scenario like that.
And the food, obviously allergies are super, super important. So that's why it's something like this you should have, because like David is saying, we've had so many instances where customers just try things and you say it can have a certain ingredient, and then afterwards they'll be like, oh, did this have that? I actually am allergic to it. You never know. People really do just take samples without thinking, just because they're just grabbing and going. So you want to have that. And also, I think when you're talking to customers, let them know if you have certain ingredients like nuts, which a lot of people are allergic to talk about that. Another thing is also I would say, David, because for food safety is if you're doing like a hot demo, we've talked to a lot of clients who are cooking, you know, they have like a stovetop and they're putting oil and butter and cooking things live in a store. You have to be careful with those things too. That's another type of food safety where it's like you have to have either some type of barrier to control what you're using to heat, anything to cover up wires if you have extension cords. It's like
that's
all
a
of these
huge thing.
things.
So that's something that I touched on a little bit in a future slide over here, but like to all the founders out there with items you need to prep, be careful. Like the second you put a cord down, someone will find a way to trip over it. Your cooking stuff, okay, that's great, but you got to think, how do you scale that? How do you scale, like you have something like that involves boiling hot water, you got to assume, you know, Murphy's Law, you got to assume somebody's going to hit it with their cart and it's going to fall over. You know, you have to mitigate the chance that that can happen. And then, you know, think about if it's even feasible to do it in one way. It might be feasible to do it in another way, if not in one. Maybe you can microwave instead of using boiling water. Maybe you can steam. Maybe you can use a crock pot. There's a lot of other things that you could think of. So just get creative, but don't get too locked into it. Needs to be prepared in this specific way because the stores are flexible. You need to be flexible too.
Exactly.
And one question that we've gotten regarding, we have a picture here of a ServSafe, of Bridget's ServSafe food handler license. You need a different one for alcohol. So at any brands that have alcohol, just to let you know, you need another foods handler license for alcohol. That's a different serving license.
Yes.
So that is kind of the essentials for food safety. The final thing is we just wanted to give everybody some ideas of what supplies to use. So here's some basics. These are just some of them. There's more. There's toothpicks. There's cups. There's a lot of, or like spoons. You know, there's a bunch of small stuff, but I mean, Bridge, you can.
But these are some of the essentials. I mean, we've been doing this for a while now, so we've gone through so many different phases ourselves of having like large trash cans to little trash cans to all kinds of things that we figured out what's best for, you know, the store size, right? A setup that could work at Whole Foods might not work at a place like Erewhon where it's limited. You can't have a giant banner next to you doing a demo, right? So small little things like that. Some of the things in the photos that I really want to highlight, like a tally clicker, super important. A lot of the time we get brands asking, how are you tracking this information? You know, how can we see how many customers we're sampling to? Tally clickers being part of that little demo kit that we have is super important. You're getting to tally up how many customers you're interacting with. But again, sales sheets holders, if your product is something that requires ice because you want to have it temp controlled, we have a clear bucket. You can have a different design for it, so you can have ice from the store and have your beverages in there lined up. You can have cooler bags where you can also have more product in a bag so that it's ready and cold to serve, and you can also just keep maintaining it in temperature. The allergy signs, obviously the table, a basic table like this we use all around for our events. Every retailer kind of has different requirements from time to time, but this has been the basic one that every retailer has been fine with us using. Little things to kind of spice up your table. A bamboo board serving tray to have, you know, the presentation look a little bit nicer. Sample stickers so that if you don't have a permanent marker, you can mark out the UPC code on product, or if you want to do BOGOs. Napkins for customers, little stands for presentation so you can put your product out, like if you have a popcorn, if you want to put it on a little book stand or something so it's elevated and it looks nice and presentable. So those are some of the major things. For the prepared items, you need more electrical, such as extension cords. That might be a possibility for events at like Sprouts or Whole Foods. Sometimes they only have 3 electrical cords available, and maybe it's up on a pole. So your cord is only this big and it's up there. You have to have extension cords.
Cord covers, things to keep in mind.
Covers, you know? Yeah. So again, like just there is a lot of preparation that comes
and bring a
to
trash
all of
can.
this.
Don't use my, this is a personal
yes,
thing.
That's a
bring
personal
a trash
thing.
can. Don't use a bag if you can avoid it. It just makes you look better. And more honestly, more people will come just to use the trash can. Just because you put it there.
And I will say too, to David's point, because we see a lot of the time people they use trash bags for the trash can, and sometimes they use a bag from another store. Now David is a stickler for that, and
don't bring an Erewhon bag to Whole Foods.
Exactly.
Don't bring a Whole Foods bag to Erewhon.
So
don't do it.
So small stuff like that. And honestly, I've gotten more customers from having trash cans because people will just throw their trash in my can, and I'm just like, hey, you want a sample while you're here? So stuff like that's really important.
It just makes everything look more official. All of this goes back to that. How can you elevate? You know,
I'll add a few things here also, which is for my beverage company, we had like a big bin, and then we put our logo on it, and we would ship those out to our demo team. It was so expensive to do that. It was crazy. Eventually we figured out koozies, just get a koozie. Like we can print our own little logo onto it. And those actually were way more effective to keep the product cold. Cause you can do these kind of bins and stuff, but like the temperature is so important for most products. Like if it's a drink, ice cold, right? Everything tastes better ice cold, not like kind of cold. And if it's hot, like it's got to be hot. They can't just put it out and let it get kind of like funky and lukewarm. It's not going to be good. So yeah, for us, I mean, we would have people bring the product in a cooler, like from home or whatever, like swap it out on the shelf so it's ice cold, and then and if you actually keep it in a koozie, it'll stay cold, and even if it's carbonated, it'll stay good for like over an hour or whatever. Then you could swap it out later. But that's a lot easier to ship. So when you're thinking about your demo kit, I would definitely optimize for shipping, also because if you manage your own program, if you're not lucky enough to work with an agency that's going to manage it for you, like these guys, you're going to have turnover, and they're going to leave you. Like they're like an actor or something, and they're going to get a job, and you're not going to hear from them again. Like, it's great to be scrappy and find people, on like Facebook groups and stuff. But like, yeah, that's the biggest struggle, I think, is the turnover part. So just think about getting the stuff back and having to give it to somebody else.
But Daniel, you have such great feedback because you've done things yourself, and that's what's so important. I mean, and
do demos yourselves.
Not
to everyone out there, do some demos yourselves.
I don't think that's too off topic. I would say like everyone, like every founder, everyone should do a demo themselves, because all of a sudden, even I mean, it gives you such a different appreciation and understanding of what you're putting another brand ambassador to do when you're doing it yourself. The expectations you're putting on another after you've done it yourself. It's just completely different experience. Daniel's already like, look at how creative it is. Like the I mean, that's a great idea. It's like, look, you found it was expensive, it was too much, and then here you go.
No better way to get your story down before Expo 2 is going and pitching in like, 100 times, just a real quick approach to it. And you will learn how to talk about your product better from doing it. I guarantee it. Like just seeing people's faces as you say it over and over again. And then also like, I think that's where I realized our product line was too complicated, because even me as like a passionate CEO, it would take me at least 45 seconds to just explain all the products to people, because there were so many differences. We're like, all right, we need to simplify things here.
Yeah. So do them yourself. To Daniel's point, it helps you. You pitch at a single demo, you'll pitch like 100 times. So it's just like,
you'll get used to it.
You'll get that 5 and 15 seconds down. You need the 5, the 15, the 1 minute, and the whole speech. But like, you'll get the 5 and the 15 from doing these demos real well. And you'll get that within the first few demos. But yeah, those are the essentials. So there's a whole list over there, but there's, everything changes brand to brand. So those are just some basics. So look, here's the important stuff. So agency or in-house? Obviously agency. No, I'm kidding. But we're gonna give you kind of the pros and cons of both. So there's two approaches, the DIY with most things. There's the DIY and then there's the outsource, right? So an agency, that's us. That's anybody who's running like an event staffing agency, trade show staffing agency, all sorts of kinds of agencies, not all focused on in-store sampling. In fact, most aren't. Most are focused on show staffing or guerrilla marketing or experiential, because that takes more people. They handle all aspects of pretty much the entire program. They're going to interface with you, get your preferences, get your date ranges, what locations you want to do, and they're going to handle almost all of it. They're going to handle hiring, managing reps. They're going to handle, scheduling and rescheduling, any problems that come up. And you're going to have a single point of contact with them to go into, things like if you want to tweak something, you want to ask questions, what did people see here? And you can leverage their team without, without needing to leverage your own time. So, you're going to get that, but there's going to be a markup, right? Because you're working with the company, you're not doing it yourself. So there's going to be a markup. There's not going to be the same obvious direct control that you're going to have if you're hiring one person to do something just for you, or a team that's hiring that's hired by you and managed directly by you. So that's extremely time intensive. And that's going to take, like Daniel said, people will leave. There will be turnover. You need to make sure you're ready for that. But those are some of the pros of working with an agency, and the cons. The cons mainly, as with most third parties, it's pricing, always pricing, and a little bit also control, because you do sacrifice a bit of that. You sacrifice that the second it's not you yourself doing something. So the other approach is the in-house approach. So this is where you manage, you know, as a brand, you manage all aspects of the program on your own. You hire people, you fire people, you train them, you prep them, you give them and supplies, buy them supplies, you buy them new supplies as they run out of the old ones. You're going to need, keep in mind, if you're doing especially like a larger number, be prepared to be on hand like 24/7 any day that they're doing events to answer text messages and calls, because they're going to be important things. I mean, Bridget and me, it's like, but especially like Bridget, she handles a lot of the communication with our team, and she wakes up to text messages. She goes to sleep answering text messages, you know, and this is normal in business, but I'm telling you, like managing a brand ambassador team, it is constant. So just keep that in mind if you're one of those brands that is going to be doing this yourself, especially at scale. You know, if you're going to manage it at scale, keep that in mind. You're going to be managing people all the time, and people are going to have problems. They're going to run into things. They're going to see stuff. They're going to have questions. So, you know, the pro of this is that, of the DIY approach, is that, you know, the cost, number one, the cost. Number two is the control. You have cost lowered because you're going direct, and you have control. But remember, even in terms of cost, these days, prevailing rates for this type of work, it's like $25 an hour in most parts of the country, and especially a lot of the major cities where places like Whole Foods and Central Market are, even if you're going direct. And you're going to find that on these brand ambassador communities, that they have sort of an enforced minimum wage of like $25 an hour, because much of the work is contracted. And you're going to need to buy them supplies. Someone's going to need to buy them supplies. There's going to be mileage. So don't just think it's just going to be $25 an hour and you're done. It's more complicated than that. It is still cheaper, but it is more complicated than that.
Yeah, and I think you have a good point too, bringing up just like how much control you have, because it's just anybody can staff an event just to have somebody there by a table, but you just want to make sure that they're as much of an extension as the brand as possible. Yeah.
So those are kind of the pros and the cons of both approaches. This is more of just recruiting and training staff, just a little bit of info on it. You know, I'll go over this kind of quick, but you want to join the local ambassador communities. If you're a brand, this is where you're going to find people. Let's say you want to do it DIY. So for the brands that are interested in doing their own program or starting one or looking into it, join your local brand ambassador community. You will have some of these communities. There's sometimes multiple in any given city, in any given major metro of the country, most of them. Almost all of them, especially the bigger the city, the more active the communities, the higher the number of communities. So you're going to want to get on those Facebook groups, and you're going to want to check it out, see what is going on in your locality, what people are there, what are they asking for in terms of pay. Some of these rates, some of these groups are almost like little unions. So they have like their own rules. They have their own minimum pay for jobs. I mean, it's serious. And there's like admins, they will kick you out if you don't adhere to certain rules. It's a serious thing. But those communities are probably going to be your best bet for finding someone quickly. Otherwise, you're going to be going through like Indeed, or you're going to be like asking people at stores. You know, there's really not a lot of other options.
This is a great tip for everybody. Yeah, just in Facebook, type brand ambassadors of, and then your city, it will come up. There will be tons of people there, and then you can see what the going rate is. If it's like $25 an hour, if you're supposed to pay for mileage, like what the norm is. I think in LA we were paying people like 25 to 30. We were like toying with whether there should be an incentive for them selling cans, but then that was going to be really hard to track. But I mean, yeah, again, all sorts of issues with these kinds of people, like around reliability and consistency, and they'll cancel a demo right before it's supposed to happen. But yes, that is how you can find them. And Indeed is a great source also.
Yeah, both are good. Facebook is the best, but both are good. Just keep an eye out for those pay rates and for those rules, like Daniel said, because they all have them. Training staff, make sure these staff are all trained up. Oh yes, and I should mention Trusted Herd, of course, as well. Also another great resource for finding reps of any kind, you know, for any type of event. So that's kind of like
Trusted Herd. You can post, I think, for like $7 a job and find somebody. They also have taken over some of these Facebook groups. I think they've bought some of them, so they may try to charge you in certain cities.
Yes, so just keep an eye out on it. You know, it's something to keep in mind, but another community that you can leverage. Training staff. So this one, again, something that seems obvious, but a lot of brands don't do it. And a lot of the bigger companies, you know, from what our own ambassadors even told us when we've worked with them, is that before, when they would work, sometimes they would just get thrown into jobs. Sometimes people just hire them and just say, show up, and You know, the pay is $400 a day, do this event, and then you're gone. You know, that's it. And then they never work with them again. So you want to train your staff, especially in this world of CPG. You want to train your staff. You want to train them well. You want to make sure that they are confident and can speak to the benefits of your items, you know, especially in the era of things like adaptogens and pro and pre and postbiotics, all these specializations. You want to make sure that people can speak to the benefits of those things confidently. So that means, you know, give them a training, give them a virtual training before you do an event. Send them some samples, of what they're going to be giving out so that they can try it themselves and experience it. And anything like that, you can give them like a cheat sheet or a one pager that's like facing towards like a brand ambassador. Super helpful stuff, you know, super helpful. If there's a pain point with your item about sugar, give them a bullet point of how to respond to that. You know, you can tell them, but also just give them a little printout that they can have. You want to give them every resource that they can possibly get so that you can set them up for success. Because that's going to help you more, and that's going to help them sell more for you. But if they don't have those things, it'll hurt them. They won't be able to respond to those things as confidently. And the last thing, you know, this is to Daniel's point about reliability. Consistency is key. You know, we see a lot of brands maybe you want to do 100 in a month. I would recommend maybe considering splitting it. You know, if you have a more regular cadence, you can have a more regular team. If you do everything at once for like a quarter and then don't do anything again for 3 months, all those people you used, if you have good people, bad people, whatever, they're all going to be gone. So you won't get to use the same person again and again. A big thing that we do at our agency at Grassroots is we use the same people.
We get a lot of questions on that, like, what's your recruiting process? How are you hiring these people? And we really go in depth about who we're trying to find, where we find them, and just our personal onboarding process. But one thing I really try and highlight is the fact that we have consistent brand ambassadors in the same region. So if you're doing a campaign with us, you're going to get that same brand ambassador hitting the same market. So they'll have a relationship with you and the stores and the customers. That's hard to get to. So just, again, if you seek out your own team, just keep that in mind. You want to have consistent work if possible so that they can get accustomed to the brand and have that relationship keep going with you.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, you know, if you have someone good, you can use them over a long time. It's worth stretching out your cadence of your demos.
Next is the scheduling process.
This is Bridget.
And I am the scheduling guru. So pretty much we have so many different methods now with different retailers of how to schedule. So it's a little complicated sometimes, but all we have to do is make sure that you guys know what the process is, just do it right and confirm with the stores. So first is demo portals. Places like Erewhon, Whole Foods, Bristol Farms even have portals now where you're going to set up your own account or you're going to log into an account and you're going to be booking events. It's really easy, super fantastic, because you can see the dates and times available for each of the stores you're trying to schedule. Some portals like Whole Foods make you have your SKUs and everything, all your information on there. You have to know if you're going to do an electrical, whatever. It's going to be on there. Just make sure that you double check, you know, the cost associated with booking demos. Erewhon just increased theirs. It's $50 to book an event. Whole Foods, I think, is $30 to book an event.
Yeah.
You can't cancel demos on certain portals. You can cancel on other portals. So you want to be aware of the guidelines when you're booking those demos, because when you're booking on a portal, there's most likely going to be a cost associated with it now.
Yeah.
Other stores, again, like a Central Market, they want you emailing the departments. It's really easy to get a list of each of the contact informations. You can either get that from your broker, you can contact the stores. Super helpful, and everyone at the stores is really friendly, but you'll have to email individually each store, let them know the date and the time, the schedule. You're going to be kind of going back and forth with some people, because sometimes maybe that date they don't have it open. So then they're going to have to go back and give you another date. So just know that there might be some communication with that, and you want to be on top of that via email. But again, it's pretty easy. Last thing is calling in advance. So some stores, maybe some indies, just require calling in advance, but we always encourage everyone to do that for all their demos. So when you are calling, not only are you guaranteeing, hey, like, I am actually going to be coming in this Saturday to do my demo from 11 to 2, but also you want to make sure that they're ordering products. So you can kind of, you know, do two things at once. It's really helpful. Again, not stress. Oh, just the guidelines of the stores.
Read the rules.
You want to read the rules. There's some stores, again, like a Central Market, where they want you to wear a white button up and black slacks for everyone. They don't want people with nail polish. it's,
You can't wear nail polish at Central Market.
at some of the stores. Yeah. So it's a little different. So again, you want to just read all the guidelines. Again, know what you're going to be paying, know if you can and cannot cancel a demo, know what if you have to wear something or park in a certain spot. So that's all the kind of scheduling.
I'll just mention for people, probably we're going to go over by a few minutes. Hopefully that's okay for everyone. But if people have to jump, then the recording will be available on YouTube. One question that came in, are there certain days and times of the week that are better for demos, like high traffic days and times? And I'll just say my opinion on this is like, we didn't know. Like, I was launching an energy drink, probably hindsight, like it's obvious, but not at night. People don't want to try it at night, even a sip. So we were just hitting daytimes. The weekends turned out to be our go-to, like Saturdays. That was when people were in the stores. But, you know, it changes by retailer and by store of the retailer. Like at Erewhon, there are ones that are mainly around offices. And if it's a weekend, it is dead there, or maybe just a little bit during lunch. Other places, yeah, they're good during lunch and then completely dead after. Erewhon Venice, like pretty much always cook in there. But you can, I learned this from, like, I talked to my friends at Leisure Hydration and they had been demoing in all the Erewhons. They're like, yeah, here are the top 4 to look for at these times. And that helped us get there much faster. So you might think you know about your brand, but like start looking at the numbers also and refine your demo strategy. And then if you work with somebody like Bridget and David, you can tell them like, hey, let's go. By the way, these are the guidelines. We only do Friday night and Saturday demos these times. Like, please stick to those things. And, you know, then you can keep testing and learning.
Yeah,
100%. That's such a great point. And we try our best to answer those questions too, or recommend anything if needed. But sometimes you won't learn until you get to do it yourself.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, you know, it's not like it's not set in stone. It just depends where you're at, where the stores are at, what your customer and what you're selling.
Know your market.
Know your market.
And that it's best if you know someone who knows it already, or if you get to know it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And ask the stores, they'll tell you.
Oh, true. Yeah, very easy.
So here's one of the most important things. So it's home stretch here, but really, like, event follow-up is super important. For anybody doing their events, especially if you're doing it yourself. Like with an agency, the agency is going to have a follow-up process. We have one, most will have one already. They're going to have reporting, they're going to have analytics, they're going to have, everything's going to be in a box ready for you at the end of the events. Now, if you do it yourself, you have to either, you know, buy one of those programs, buy into one of those programs, which is very expensive, probably doesn't make sense, or you're gonna have to make your own format that kind of tracks it. Not unfeasible. You could make a Google form. There's ways you can get around it if you're trying to be scrappy and do it yourself. But some of the things that you want to measure are, you know, you want to measure your sales, usually based on your inventory before and after. You want to track the number of shoppers you sampled to, because that's a huge point of context for like everything. You know, if you sampled to 10 people and sold 10, well, that's a huge, great adoption rate. If you sampled to 100 people and sold to 10, that's very different, you know, but it's just something you want to keep track of. You know, you want to take pictures of your set. You want to take pictures of your setup. So you want to know what it looked like. You're going to forget, like within 7 days, you'll forget where you were last week. It's like, you want to make sure that you take photos of that store, of that table, everything, just in case also if there's any issues after, if someone, you know, stores like, did you actually do these or something, you know, there might be some context that's important that you captured there. And the last thing, you know, track your positive and your critical comments, write it down right after your demo, and just make sure to like put it into words. Like, customers are going to tell you a lot of things. Most of it will always be positive because people aren't going to be usually like rude or something, but sometimes they will have critical comments. Sometimes it's not worth listening to, but sometimes they are. It's always worth hearing out people. And, you know, one thing I'll say, and I made a note about this in another panel or another slide, but please, if you're a founder or if you work for a brand or really close to the brand, don't take the critical comment and throw it into the trash in your head. Like, try and appreciate what they're trying to tell you at face value. You know, because just think, if they think it, there's going to be other customers who do, you know, there's going to be other customers who think that as well. And, you know, it might help you iterate on a future version of a product, or lower sugar or lower salt or more protein. There's a bunch of things. It's not always just, you know, I know people can get defensive when they hear a comment about their item, but I try to tell brands, like when we talk to them, please just look at it as another point of feedback. You know, it's just another point of feedback.
That's super important, because we've had even brands who have changed ingredients, you know, because we've had such consistent feedback in a report multiple regions, and they really took it seriously. And I think that really goes to show that they're taking the demo seriously too, because it's not just about selling. It's not just about, oh, they don't understand the product. It's like, this is what customers are saying in stores.
And if they're saying it in stores, they're going to say it online. You know, at least in stores, you have an opportunity to respond, address it, hear it in a safe environment, and not have to deal with it through your customer service team or something like that, or send someone free stuff. You're just getting that raw feedback.
Yeah.
Hey, well, one question I want to ask you guys is, like, okay, you have so much experience. What are the best stores to demo? Like, let's say, you know, you've got some good distribution, you're in a couple different chains. Like, what are the ones where you see people just crush on numbers? And I can say, like, from my own experience, okay, yeah, like, it's so different when you as the founder demoing versus your contractors or agencies or whatever. Cause like, no matter how good somebody is, like, they're not going to bring the same thing as you. And also, I think like the customer kind of knows when it's you that's there or someone from your team, then they like,
it's just because I know it's the founder there.
Yeah, it's special.
I want to support it. Yeah.
It's like why we're all in this industry. It's cool. It's fun. And people are like, oh, you're the founder. That's cool. I want to buy some and tell people I met you. Like, that's cool. But I can say like Air One, if I'm there, maybe 40. If I'm not there, it might be 10 or 20. I don't know. Sprouts. We were doing like 30, 40, like once our strategy was going, which is, you know, a pretty decent number. But then in like Sprouts SoCal, like far down in San Diego, was terrible for some reason. I don't know why. It could have been the demo person. It could have been the store traffic. I don't know. Central Market, I mentioned, was cooking pretty good, especially in some of the top stores like Lover's Lane. What are some accounts where you're like, ooh, that one just flies?
Sprouts with grocery items, Sprouts with like bars, especially.
And Sprouts with coupons, I think.
Sprouts with coupons.
Because the customers love a deal there. I mean, I don't even know how many times
Sprouts shoppers love demos.
They love demos. They love sampling things, but they like, even if it's a 50-cent coupon, they will take it. They love it. They just want to feel like they're getting like, I mean, then that is the Sprouts customer. It's people who care about healthy foods, but you know, they want it at a budget. They don't want to be overspending on certain things. So I think Sprouts is fantastic. I mean,
what about your top store in the world? Like David and Bridget launched their new product. You can only demo in one individual store location.
I mean, that's so tough. There's so many. Honestly, I feel like just because we're based out here in LA and we've grown up with so many, like, again, we started doing demos at Air One ourselves when there was just 2 stores. I feel such an attachment to them because we've been there. So, I mean,
I just know that we know
I've done so many demos there myself.
Yeah.
I've known everyone all the time. Like,
which one? Venice?
Beverly and Calabasas, just because.
Right.
Well, like the LA's now we have to say it's the Grove store.
Oh, the Grove
Los Angeles
store.
Yeah. Now they have the Beverly
But
Hills
Calabasas isn't like that has my heart. That store, it's like a traditional grocery store. And if you haven't seen the Air Ones yourself, you'll see that's the most different one compared to the other locations. People actually buy groceries there. It's not just buying a coffee or a smoothie and food.
Yeah.
You're buying groceries there. So to me, I always sell a lot at that location. There's a lot of families, there's kids, there's dogs. It's fun.
Okay. And what about frequency of demos?
I saw this one. So I would say frequency, you want to think about demos on a long term. It is just another spoke in your wheel of marketing options. You know, you don't want to think like, I'll do 10 and then I'll never do them again. It's sort of like merchandising in that way, where it takes time to yield results. And it's also something that you should do at, even if it's a slower pace over a longer window. I would rather, if Brandon was asking me, how do I distribute 100 demos? I would rather say do 20 and 10 and 20 and 10 for a while if you're supporting promotional options, but spread it out. Don't do 100 in 1 month. Do 50 in 2, or do 30 in 3, and 10 in 1. You know, you want to get creative, but I would say if you have an allotment per quarter, maybe go heavy 1 month and go slow 2. And if you're doing it over like 4 months, don't do it in 1. Do an A/B test. See how everything did, you know, once all the noise stops.
You will get more attention like that when even the staff themselves see, oh, you were here last month and you're here again this month. That's more consistent for them to see that like you're actually taking the time to come in, and that they're going to order more consistently too, because they'll see you're coming in versus showing up for 1 month and, like David said, doing 100 demos at 100 different stores and then doing that again in another 6 months or something.
Keep in mind, every demo should sell, like a successful demo is going to sell either multiples of your weekly average, or at least that. It's going to sell like a lot more than it normally would, because you have a person standing there passing out product. You want to spread this out so that the stores will continue seeing your people reordering, getting those averages up across a wide range of locations. So I would say in general, spread them out, but do a regular cadence. Do a regular cadence for as long as you want to do a campaign.
let's try to get to the questions you, how many,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this was just more of this, just tying into your promo strategy. Remember, everybody, I mean, I know I already kind of went over this, so I'll be short here, but tie into your existing promos, make use of them. If you have a digital campaign, additional placements, promotions, do it then. Don't do it on another time, or focus more on those times. You know, do it heavier during that period. You know, this info is for people when they can review this on their own after the call or after the webinar, but check this out on your own. But just in general, follow your own promotional calendar, you know, tie into it and make use of it. It synergizes, demos synergize great with other promotional efforts.
I did see this question come into about doing, and somebody, I had a few calls lately of people asking this too. Yes, you should be doing demos in stores that your product is actually being sold in. That's usually how they regulate it. Only in special instances, if you have some type of deal with maybe an independent, or if you're part of an innovation setup or a certain retailer where they let you actually set up a demo if you're not technically being sold there.
Yeah, you have to be in the store in general, though. You have to be in the store unless you're going to like a gym and you're like piloting or something like that, and they're going to put you on the shelf or something. That's different. We've done that before, but in general, just focus on items where you're in, you're already, retailers were already sold.
This is a little bit more about,
this is like the last, this is really like pretty much the last thing. This and the analysis, and then one more thing after this. This is just letting you know, like, for all the brands out there, especially when you're just starting, check out your results, check out your sales results the week of and the week after. The thing about demos is they have a tail effect. Everybody focuses on how much was sold on a specific day. But what really matters is what's the long-term impact, because demos, they're a different method of promoting. They're a different method of promoting with different benefits and different benefits associated with the long term. So when you do a demo and you sample to 100 people and you sell to 20 or whatever, you're going to get a few of those people that buy again and again and again. Those are the reasons that you do demos. You go for those loyal customers, the people that are going to buy repeatedly over and over again, not just the people that are going to buy once because you're there. But they have a tail effect. So check out your numbers in the weeks following an event or a campaign, you know, especially if you do a campaign across a region, let's say, check out the numbers in the post, you know, 4-week, 8-week period and compare it to the time before you did that.
That ties into one of the questions we just got, David. What if somebody, like if you're doing demos at an independent store and they don't have a system in place of like tracking sales, or you tracked sales for the single demo that you did, can you call the stores in your experience?
Yeah, call them,
just call
ask
them,
them,
check the
see how they're
numbers.
doing. You know, if you have a relationship with them, go in and ask them to tell you how you've been selling since then. You know, if you're a small brand starting up, you don't have spins, you don't have Nielsen IQ, you don't have anything like that. You know, go to the store and ask them. They will tell you. They'll support you, especially if you're a founder or a young brand coming in there asking, look, I'm just trying to check how have I sold the last 4 weeks versus the 4 weeks before that. Catch them on a day when they have some time and they'll let you.
You can, and a couple of ways you can check this. I mean, if you're an Erewhon, you can pay for their data package, which that was a big part of our strategy. And then you see the baseline go up after your demo, and hopefully it keeps going up after the demos. I forgot to mention though, for us, the biggest thing that screwed us up was Erewhon not having enough product for a demo. We would call them ahead. We would email them. We'd be like, yeah, we're good. We got product. And then you pay for the demo person and they show up there and there are 3 cans on the shelf. And it's a total waste of their time to sample the product. So I would like make that part of your process is check with them 5 times or whatever, that they have enough inventory before you're going to demo.
No, and that's such a great point, because, and you know what I tell people too when we're talking to a lot of our clients who are specifically interested in Erewhon, that what you bring up, Daniel, is so important, because when I've gone to talk to grocery managers myself, what we're being told is just like, we don't have a lot of backstock in the store, so we're ordering to shelf. So it's like the orders are placed in this way, so we can't even have, sometimes it's like founders have come and they're like, hey, we need like 5 cases of this product because I know we're going to sell. And they're just like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, they can't do it on short notice either.
So sometimes it depends on the retailer or the manager. And again, maybe that's where merchandising or visiting the stores are helpful, or, you know, again, doing what we've seen too is when you do demos consistently, the ordering lift goes as well. So it's like they'll start ordering more once they see people coming.
But you can email, like if Erewhon, you can email your buyer or whatever and tell them where they actually don't mind. If you're like, I'm going to demo at this store, you can call stores in other cases and just, you know, kind of remind them, but like, oh, it's such a big investment on your hand.
A lot of our team will call ahead and stuff, but just keep in mind, it doesn't always help. you're still going to run into things where even if you told them, they'll forget.
Yeah, it happens, but you always want to just cover all the bases.
Cover as many bases as you can.
Yeah.
And go over feedback with an open mind.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. So I wanted to ask, if there's any open questions over here, we can address those. I think we have a few over here.
A fun one I saw was just asking about like cup sizes. We do 2-ounce cup sizes. Sometimes it depends when we're working with a coffee company, we can do anywhere from 4 to 6 ounces. So it depends on your product.
I bought cups like that off Amazon for like kind of crappy ones, but if you want compostable nice ones, you could go to something like webstaurant.com.
Yeah,
Food Service Direct. Like then you can get them at bulk and they'll be a little bit cheaper that way. But if you're at Erewhon, it's kind of nice. If you're like, oh, don't worry, it's compostable,
Yeah, I would recommend if you want something that's like a quick and dirty option, just get paper cups, because all paper cups are they're not coated. So they're usually compostable. And you can get 1 ounces, 2 ounces of those in bulk boxes.
It may impact the taste of your product if it's paper.
That's true. So
as a beverage perfectionist,
yeah,
like, whoa.
Yeah, plastic.
This is like
sugar cane. They all have different options.
This is like questions I see coming in and that I can answer at the same time. So sales sheet essentials, always besides maybe like a product image of the product itself and the name, FAQs about it, whatever is specific to your product that makes you and that you want to highlight. Are we gluten-free? Are we plant-based? Are we low calorie? Are we low sugar? That's what you want to highlight. And then somebody else had asked about,
and the simpler the better also.
Exactly. But also sometimes somebody else had asked about, we don't have specific like ingredients listed, or for like allergies, what can we do? You can include that in a sales sheet too, sometimes on the back. So you can, show customers like, oh yeah, the ingredient list is right here. That's easy.
Yeah. So keep it as simple as possible. It is not for the store. It's just for the customer or for your demo person, one or the other. I would say like,
this is an interesting question for you to ask too.
The KPIs.
Oh yeah, and this one, whichever one.
Well, I would say that, when does it typically make sense to engage an agency instead of doing it yourself? I would say that when you get to a point, first of all, beyond your locality, like beyond where you are, wherever you're based, once you get beyond that, like once you start getting beyond 10, 15, 20 demos, like you can't do that anymore. I mean, think every single one of those events is going to take 4 hours of your time. You really can't do that past that point without hiring somebody specifically to do it. So that would be the point at which you want to bring in an agency. Or let's say you get an approval at Sprouts and you're going to go into their innovation set. That's when you want to definitely bring an agency in, because you're not going to be able to build your own program fast enough. And it's not something that's going to be forever. That would be a perfect example of when you should bring an agency in. A new regional approval at Whole Foods, bring an agency in. Things like that. When you're going into new regions or expanding beyond your backyard and like beyond 10, 20, especially, there's like a hard cap there that's like a whole nother business that you're going to do.
It's like people have different models, right? If you're like bootstrapping this and you're a solo entrepreneur and you're doing this on the side and just trying to grow slowly, like, yeah, maybe, if you're not trying to grow fast, you could just be in a couple stores and doing this on your own. Great. Like, grow slowly. If you're trying to grow fast and you have like money in the bank, remember there's an opportunity cost to you doing demos also. It's good to get the experience, but like, what are you not during those? I mean, it's a 3-hour demo. It's going to eat up 5 hours of your day for sure. You're probably not going to get much else done that day. So it's a balance and managing the program too. Like, okay, great. Do we need to do that because we want to save money? We want to do it this way. We want to hire our own people. Okay, still, you're going to have to manage that program. Someone from your team is going to have to manage all those people and double check everything and all of that. So
answer the text messages, answer the calls. All that stuff is going to pop up.
Yeah.
There's one last question here in the Q&A. So in terms of like, this is a specific person asking about wet demos at Whole Foods because the dry demos were expensive and didn't perform well. This is for a tea item. So if you're going to do something like this, a lot of the stores have access to hot water. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get a carafe, and like the insulated chambers, you want to fill that up with some hot water and dispense little amounts at a time. Maybe do like prep like 12-ounce batches, or just have like multiple of those ready to go. And then there you can go. You can go from there. And that's going to be a way to sample it that's specific to your item. But that's still also protecting the customer, isn't exposing anyone to like boiling hot water, and is pretty easy that anyone could do. The stores generally have that.
All right. I just wanted to mention, like, as we're closing out here. So, I mean, this is an incredible amount of information. You can see these guys definitely know their stuff. Grassroots, although they have taught you today how to do this on your own, when you get to the point where you don't want to, they are our demo partner. I put in the chat here the link if you want to schedule a call with them to chat. We have a special rate with them where it's 180 for a 3-hour demo for the first 3 months to help you get started. Then it goes to 200. And you can do co-branded demos where they'll help match you with another brand as well. So I linked their call calendar here if you want to explore getting set up with them. They cover, Whole Foods and Sprouts and, also all the national, like Central Market, all the national and, regional guys. And in my experience, that's a pretty reasonable rate. There are some agencies that will try to charge you $300 a month or per demo, and then they'll like say you have to have a really high minimum. So those are kind of hard ones to navigate. Were you going to add something, David? I think I maybe cut you off.
No, pretty much just for the last thing I'll say, any KPIs, that was one question for the brands out there just getting started. Just track the things that I mentioned. Track your sales, track the number of people you sample to, and track what people said. That's it.
And I will add, there is a lot of preparation for everything, but we hope you guys just also remember that demos are super, super fun. It's a great opportunity for you guys to meet your customers, your fans, people who will be hopefully, repeating customers. So we're just super excited to be here. Get
out there and see the impact you make. Daniel saw it when he was out there. It's like people.
And Daniel was a great demo person because he had that energy. He was there. And
I saw him at stores. This is what it's all about. Yeah. You get to see the impact you make every day. And if I can I
love demoing.
It's fun. It's fun.
I'm not leaving the store till the shelf is empty. I'm like, oh, I'm clearing that shelf. I'm gonna get out of here. Yeah. But I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate the part about the KPIs. And even like, if you're working with Grassroots or your own demo person or whatever, like look at that data. Look at, okay, how many, that it'll help you problem solve, because the point is just get better wherever you start. Okay, start getting better. Like, was the problem the number of samples? If so, maybe that's a time of day thing, or it actually may be is it the right demo person? Like, are they outgoing enough that they're actually stopping people? Or maybe you have the wrong demo materials, or you're in the wrong part of the store. If the conversions are low, okay, again, is that because maybe the person isn't very well trained on the product and you need to talk to them about how to talk about it, or because the product's not at the right temperature, or because, whatever. So like, and then you can work with like, David and Bridget as partners, or anybody, of like, okay, look, these regions are doing well, these ones aren't. How do we bring this one up? And how do we invest more in the ones that are doing well? That should be the journey that you're on if you're making a big investment in a demo program, to get the most out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or do we need to start doing can stock to like get the numbers up, right? There are a lot of things you can consider.
Yeah. And, honestly, if there's ever any questions that we can answer after this webinar, for anybody, please, feel free to DM me. I'm on Slack like all the time. So just go ahead, send me a DM, and I will go ahead and answer any of these questions, because I know that a lot of specific things have come up over here. And if people have questions after this, just let me know, and we will answer anything.
David's handle in our Startup CBG Slack is David H. I happen to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So reach out anytime to us. And whether it's a question about working with an agency, working with us, working on your own, just let me know. I'm happy to help. And any member of the community, so just let me know anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
All right. And then thank you everybody for joining. This recording will be available on YouTube. And since I just recently learned how to play music, I'm gonna play.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna play some club. I'm gonna play some. Oh no. Oh yeah. If you have to stop your screen share, and then I can play us out.
Here we go.
Ready?
Is it working? I think it's working. All right. Everyone can leave now while we screw around with playing music.
There you go.
Thanks everybody for joining.
Thank you guys.
Bye everybody.
Bye.